Welcome to episode 2 of More Disney, where I talk about more topics about Disney that's more in-depth than just what I do on the regular news. So, the last episode when I talked to you guys, I discussed, is Disney losing the theme to their theme parks? So I got into that conversation, and this time I want to talk about another topic that a lot of people are kind of in discourse about sometimes. Ride rethemes. Are they good? Are they not good? We're going to get into, let's see, I wrote down 10 of them. If you can think of any more, please let me know. But these are the 10 that I could come up with. Again, obviously there's a lot more that we can cover. But these are the top, in my book, the top 10 of ride rethemes at the Walt Disney World Resort. Again, if you have any more, send me a comment in the under the video. Let me know what ones that I missed, what ones that that are that were special to you or are special to you. This video is going to be posted a little late. I know that I wanted these to come out on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I had to have a root canal. So I was all numbed up, and the last thing I wanted to do was talk to anybody, much less get in front of a camera and talk. So that's why this video will be posted later. But I do want to get on that schedule of recording these on Wednesdays or on Tuesdays, and then posting them on Wednesdays. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different, so I do apologize, but hopefully I can hopefully going forward I can get on a more consistent schedule, like with the news. Okay, so but I did write them down, the top 10 ride rethemes that I thought of. So obviously there's plenty more. If any of you that think of other rides that I missed, again, comment in the under the video, and maybe I can do another video on this sometime down the road. But these are the 10 that I could think of. Okay. So let's begin with number 1. Okay, and these aren't necessarily like in order. Just what ones I could think of. Off the top of my head. So number 1 is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride into the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh at the Magic Kingdom. So if any of you are aware, which I would assume most of you are, where the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh stands today was home to a different ride during park open, and that was Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. All right, and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was a I don't know if I would. I mean, I guess it's kind of a clone from Disneyland. Of course, Disneyland still has their their Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. But Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was an opening day attraction at the Magic Kingdom. Ran for a number of years, and unfortunately, I didn't write the dates down. I should have, but I didn't. That's what happens when you're in a hurry. If anyone can think of the dates, again, please comment. Let me know. But Mr. Toad's Wild Ride ran for a number of years. It was a dual track, so there were, and unlike Disneyland's, which has one version of the ride, our version at the Magic Kingdom had 2 tracks, so it was better for capacity. So you had 2 different, and it was all, excuse me, it was all random. So you would either go on the left or the right. So you had two different versions of the ride. When they decided to close the ride and replace it with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, a lot of people were in an uproar. A lot of people were very upset, and it actually caused a protest in the park. It actually caused a protest in the park to keep this ride. All right, which is, imagine if, all the Splash Mountain people were inside the park protesting. I mean, that okay. So, but this they had protesters inside the Magic Kingdom protesting against putting Winnie the Pooh in to replace Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Look, I really liked Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I also really like Winnie the Pooh. I think our version of the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is better than Disneyland's. Our Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh follows the movie. It's chronologically in order, whereas Disneyland's is not. It's just random, which is kind of odd and weird to me, but whatever. But I know that Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was popular. I don't know why Disney wanted to replace it with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, but they did. It was sort of, kind of, the same track layout. As many of you probably know, the ride would go inside the first set of double doors. You would have a little mini scene, and then you would crash out of the fireplace, go back outside, and then you would go back inside to the show building to continue with the rest of the ride, and then come out at the other side. When they redid the building with Winnie the Pooh, they obviously I don't know if they had to rebuild the show building or not. It's still a really small show building, but again, I would assume that they had to seal off the part where the cars came crashing through the fireplace, came out of the show building, and then went back in. I don't know. I don't really know that offhand. But I mean, I really like both of them. But but I don't think we've ever seen a protest in the park like that ever since they decided to get rid of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and replace it with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. But again, it is what it is. This is why I wanted to talk with my friend, because he really loves the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and he really loves Splash Mountain. So I wanted to get his take on these. Unfortunately, I never heard back from him, so I'm just gonna have to do this by myself. But I mean, I don't really remember a lot of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at Walt Disney World. I mean, obviously, I remember it more at Disneyland. But them getting rid of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and putting in the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, that never bothered me. That never bothered me. And there's going to be things on this list that absolutely bothers me. Okay? But, but putting Winnie the Pooh in, I mean, makes sense. So, and I think this is probably going to hurt some people, but Winnie the Pooh is I think, more well known than Mr. Toad is. You mentioned Mr. Toad, and a lot of kids are like, "Who is that? I don't know who that is." You mentioned Winnie the Pooh. Everybody knows who Winnie the Pooh is. So replacing Mr. Toad with Winnie the Pooh never really bothered me. It obviously hurt a bunch of folks, but I mean, I could understand why they did that. Okay, I actually thought about putting another ride on this list, Snow White's Scary Adventures, which was literally just down the road from Mr. Toad. But when they got rid of that ride, another ride didn't replace it. They just replaced it with a meet and greet. But I mean, if we wanted to talk about Snow White's Scary Adventures, we can absolutely do that. That one, if we're taking it out of context of replacing it with another ride, that one bothered me. That one bothered me because I'm like, you're replacing a ride. You're replacing a ride that has capacity, and you're replacing that with two separate meet and greets. I don't understand why you're doing that. I really don't understand why you're doing that, okay? And I understand, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is like literally right across the street. So, nowadays that's kind of easier to swallow. Back before they even built Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, they got rid of Snow White's Scary Adventures. So I was more upset with that because I was like, okay, seriously, we're getting rid of a ride to replace it with a meet and greet. But it is what it is. But again, if you want me to talk more in depth about that, I certainly can. That one really doesn't count because, obviously Princess Fairy Tale Hall is not a ride. It's a, their meet and greet, so that really doesn't count. But if you want to talk about it, we can absolutely talk about it. But I'll move on to the next one. So this one's going to be a big one. This one is going to be a big one. And this is why I wanted to talk to my friend. Because he loved this ride and was devastated about it leaving. But Splash Mountain turning into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, both at the Magic Kingdom and at Disneyland. Look, I really loved Splash Mountain. I really did. Okay, Splash Mountain puts you in a time and a place. Okay. Retheme. A lot of kids didn't really know, Splash Mountain and the characters, which is really kind of Disney's fault because they never released Song of the South. But, a lot of kids would go on that ride and they're like, I don't know these characters. I don't know who this Brer Rabbit is, or Brer Fox, or Brer Bear or Brer Frog. I don't know them. Okay, so the ride really wasn't popular with kids. Okay, and then when Disney decided to change the ride because of the George Floyd movement and everything, they were trying to decide what ride they would put in. They decided on a Tiana ride, and I had heard that they were just going to retell the story of Princess and the Frog. That's what they were going to do. And then somewhere along the line, they decided that, the voodoo element and, all, the elements like that were really probably not, suitable, because they would have had to take it down anyway in 10 years. They would have to redo it again in 10 years anyway. So they made up a new story. So it's a continuation of the movie, which I really like. I really like that it's a continuation of the movie. And I did this in my honest review. You don't really need to, retell. They could have done that. They could have retold the story of the Princess and the Frog. But then again, you're back to that, square one of, that voodoo element that's really not going to sit well with a lot of people. And you would have had to change that ride anyway. Okay. So, but, I really think that, they did a really good job with Tiana. They knew that they had a tall order to do to retheme this ride. You couldn't half-ass this ride. You could not half-ass this ride. Okay? You've made too many mistakes. You made too many mistakes. You made it with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. We'll get to that in a little bit. You did that, in my opinion, you did that with Guardians of the Galaxy. And we'll get more into that next. So you couldn't mess this one up. You couldn't mess this one up. You had to, they knew that they had to get this right. They knew that they had to get this right. And in my opinion, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is as good as Splash Mountain was. Is it better than Splash? No. Is it worse than Splash Mountain? No. It's on the same level. It's on the exact same level as Splash Mountain. Okay? And I think it's a better quality than anything that they had put out in recent years. It is so high quality. The animatronics are fantastic. They have a great original song. It's original storytelling, original characters. So they, in my opinion, they hit a home run with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. They really, really did. Okay? It's as good as Splash Mountain was. It's not better than Splash Mountain, but I can sure as hell tell you that it's not worse than Splash Mountain. Okay? And we'll get more into that, a little later when I talk about, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Okay? Or Guardian, or this next one, Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay? But Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I think was a worthy replacement for Splash Mountain. Now, if we had it all our way, we wouldn't have gotten rid of Splash Mountain, okay? But, I really think that they did a great job with Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And I think that people need to really get over it. People really need to get over it at this point, okay? I miss Splash Mountain as much as the next person, okay? But that doesn't mean I'm going to go, say, stupid, dumbass comments. It's like, Disney's gone woke and blah, blah, get rid of Splash Mountain and blah, 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 okay? I'm not that stupid, okay? I'm not that stupid. So, I think people need to get over it. Now, had the ride been garbage, if Tiana's Bayou Adventure had been garbage, then I would have absolutely joined that conversation. I would have absolutely joined in that conversation. And have been like, look, no, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is absolute garbage. It never should have happened. But that ride is as good as Splash Mountain was. Alright, our next one is Ellen's Energy Adventure into Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. So, I never got to experience Epcot until I became an annual pass holder. So, commenting on rides or shows that were in Epcot was before my time. It was before my time. But I can still comment on, the overall theme of Epcot. Okay? So, Ellen's Energy Adventure was, and I've seen ride footage of Ellen's Energy Adventure. I liked it. It was a good ride. It was a good ride. I don't think I would call it the greatest thing in the world, but I'm gonna say this. I'm probably gonna get some slack for it, but I like Ellen DeGeneres. Okay, I really like her as a comedian. So her having a ride where she's learning about renewable energy and how energy works and everything really fit in the theme of Epcot. And it really fit. It worked. It worked overall as a theme into Epcot. Okay, and when they decided to rip that out and replace it with Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, I was like, they explained it was a roller coaster and it was a backward launch and everything, and I was like, I mean, seriously, I just couldn't get over that fact. I just couldn't. I never understood it. I never understood it. Guardians of the Galaxy has no business being at Epcot. It has no business being at Epcot. There's nothing about that ride that's anything about edutainment. Okay? We're going into this pavilion to learn about a different species that lives on a different planet, that's coming to Earth to share with us technology. They tried to tie it back to the whole Epcot and the edutainment thing, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It is totally out of place. It sticks out like a sore thumb. Okay? And again, I'm gonna get slack for this. I don't like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I don't, okay? I just, number one, I'm not a roller coaster fan. So that doesn't excite me, okay? Number two is you really killed off kind of the theme of Epcot. And you put in a ride that really kind of makes fun of Epcot. And I really don't appreciate that fact. I get that, a lot of people, they love it. They think it's a great ride and everything. I don't care for the ride, okay? I don't like the backwards launch. It makes me ill. And then on top of that, the spinning. It's like, okay, that's not great. People were like, in the beginning, people were like, oh, it's so smooth. You never know that you're going backwards. Bull crap. Okay? You absolutely know you're spinning. That thing spins you a lot of spinning. So imagine if the Mad Tea Party had hills and drops. Okay, that's what I would call it. Okay, I did not like that. I did not like that one bit. So So problem number one was, you got rid of part of the theming of Epcot, and you put in a roller coaster that makes no sense. It has no business being in Epcot. It has zero business being in Epcot. Okay? I would have, if it replaced, if it replaced Space Mountain at the Magic Kingdom, I would be devastated. But on the other hand, I would get it. I would understand why. But they didn't do that. They just they wanted to get rid of Ellen's Energy Adventure, and they just stuck that in. That was a Bob Chapek thing. Okay, that was a Bob Chapek decision of putting IP, more relevant IP in the theme parks. Everything is on a screen. Everything is on a screen. At no point do I feel like I've been launched into space and I'm going to go see the Guardians of the Galaxy. At no point do I feel like we share the same space. We don't. Okay? Everything's on a screen. Okay? Again, that was a Bob Chapek thing. Okay? Bob Chapek, all of his rides basically are screen-heavy based rides. And I don't appreciate that fact. I really, really don't. So, if I want to watch Guardians of the Galaxy, I can do that here at home. Okay? And I went on this with my Universal rant. Like, if I want to watch The Simpsons, I can do that here at home. Okay? If I wanted to watch Fast and Furious, God forbid, I can do that here at home. King Kong, again, I can do that at home. Okay? I don't need to go to a theme park for that. So, I think that Cosmic Rewind kind of failed to me in that respect. Okay? You should have added animatronics, which you didn't. Okay? It's all screen-based. Okay? You had a backwards launch, which is okay, but you added spinning, which makes a lot of people ill. It makes a lot of people ill, including myself. Okay? So, I don't care for Cosmic Rewind. It's not something that I would ever do. I've done it twice, and that's it. I will never ride that ride again. But in my book, that's another reason how they killed Epcot, was putting Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind in Epcot. Okay? That ride does not deserve to be in Epcot. Alright? Alright. Our next one is Journey into Imagination, all versions of this ride. So, in the first iteration of the ride was 15 minutes, and you met a character named the Dreamfinder, and he introduced us to Figment, and it showed you all the possibilities of what the imagination could do. All right, and that ride ran for a number of years, and then Disney had the bright idea to retheme it. So they changed it into Journey into Your Imagination, and they made the huge mistake of getting rid of Figment. Figment was nowhere in, unless he was a constellation at the end of the ride, but that was it. That was it. There was no other Figment in that ride. Okay? And people just had a shit fit. They were pissed. Which, understandably, because I've seen footage of the first iteration of Journey into Imagination, and I thought it was great. I loved it, and then they killed it with the second version. The third version, they added Figment back. A lot of people don't like that ride. I think it's okay. It's not the greatest thing ever. I would I would like for them to retheme it and kind of take it back to the first iteration of the ride. Will that ever happen? I don't know. But I sometime down the road, I hope they do that. I really hope that they do that. I think Figment deserves a better treatment than he's gotten over the last couple years. So maybe, hopefully, someday soon, we'll get an new updated version of Journey into Imagination that'll pay homage to the very first iteration. But we don't know. We don't know. We've been begging for it for a long time. Disney has never done anything about it. So, is it just, is it too late to save Figment, or is it still, or can we still save Figment? So I'd like to know in the comments. Can we still save our purple dragon, or is he lost? So you'll have to let me know how you feel about that. All right, the new version of Test Track. So, when this ride started out, it wasn't even Test Track. It was called the World of Motion, and it was an Omnimover ride system that took you through the different times of automotive history. Okay, so cars and airplanes and trains and all kinds of automated vehicles, so that they had that ride, and then they came out with Test Track 2.0, the original Test Track, not the 2.0, the very first iteration of Test Track, which was, you were kind of testing a car, but it was more like if you've ever seen like the old automobile testing commercials, they would show like a crash test dummy, and they would show them they would show a car getting into an accident, and showing the crash dummy being smashed or incinerated or whatever, so we were in the role of the crash test dummy, which thankfully we didn't die. But so they did that for a number of years, and then they decided in 2012 to update Test Track again, and Test Track 2.0 happened, which again it was okay. It wasn't my favorite version. I liked some aspects of the ride. I didn't really like the black light thing. I thought that was a little cheapy. So hopefully with this new version, we can get a better version of this ride. And that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for, I'm not asking for animatronics, because I don't know how you would do that, but who knows? I don't, but but I'm hoping at least for better sets, for better sets, okay? Because I didn't like the black light thing. I thought that was too cheap. That was way too cheap, and kind of made it look kind of boring, okay? All right. Now, this is going to be a big one. The Great Movie Ride into Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. So, decided to wear my Runaway Railway shirt for this. Look, I, I, myself and many people loved the Great Movie Ride. All right, look, it was the centerpiece of a park. It was the whole reason why Disney's Hollywood Studios, or if you want to go back to the MGM days, that was why that park got built. That's why the park got built, was because of the Great Movie Ride. Excuse me. Ow. Some of you may know that it was originally supposed to be a pavilion at Epcot. So this ride was supposed to go in a movie-making pavilion at Epcot. All right? And when Michael Eisner looked at the project, he looked at it and was like, that's a very strong idea for a ride. I really think that this ride deserves its own park. This ride deserves to be in its own theme park. And they were like, well, we don't have a theme park that this would fit in. If you want to take this outside of Epcot, we don't have a theme park that would fit this ride. And Michael Eisner was like, well, let's make a let's make a theme park that celebrates the history of film and movie making, and kind of peeking behind the curtain of how they made your favorite movies. So, the Great Movie Ride took you through, it was 20 minutes, which was great because MGM Studios was not built for rides. So, it was a 20-minute ride, and it took you through different scenes of your favorite movies. Mary Poppins, Alien, Tarzan, of the 1930s, not the 1999 Disney version, but the 1930s version. Casablanca, The Wizard of Oz, Singing in the Rain, gangster films, Western films. So it took you through, all these movies, and it had live actors, a well-written story, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. All right? And, as time went on, it was very apparent that the Great Movie Ride needed an update. It needed an update. We're not going to argue that fact, okay? Great Movie Ride, as much as we loved it, it needed an update. Absolutely needed an update, okay? To kind of more appeal to modern audiences, okay? So that was what they were going to do. They were going to update the Great Movie Ride and probably include more Disney films, because at that time Disney's contract with Turner Classic Movies had ended, so they couldn't use they couldn't use The Wizard of Oz or Singing in the Rain or Tarzan or Alien anymore. They couldn't do that because the contract had ended. So that would be copyright infringement. So they decided to update it, and that it would include more actual Disney films, which would have been fantastic. And then Bob Chapek, in his brilliant wisdom, came in and said, no, that's not what we're doing. That is going to cost way too much money. Way too much money to do. You are not doing that. So then Imagineers came up with, well, maybe we can do something like, maybe we can do the Great Mickey Ride. Okay? Which would have fit inside the aesthetic of Hollywood Studios. Okay? Back then. It would have fit in to that theme of, going through Mickey Mouse's career, seeing his most famous roles and everything, like The Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia, or the band concert, or Steamboat Willie, or, starting from the past from the 1920s all the way to now. Okay? It would have taken you from the earliest version to the present day of Mickey Mouse. Okay? And that would have been fantastic. And again, Bob Chapek came in and he said, absolutely not. That is absolutely out of the question. That is going to cost way the hell too much money. You cannot do that. You absolutely cannot do that. So they ripped out the Great Movie Ride and they decided to put in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which would be based on the new at that time the new Disney shorts that were on Disney Plus at the time. All right? And look, I'm going to say this, and I've already been on this rant, okay? Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, it's not a good ride. It's not a good ride. It is not timed out right. You miss big chunks of story. The animatronics look like hot garbage, okay? It's, the sets look incredibly cheap. At no point do I feel like I'm in the cartoon world. It's screen heavy. You know, it's everything that a Disney ride should not be. Now, I'm going to tell you, the song at the end, you know, Nothing Can Stop Us Now, that's the best thing about that ride. Okay? That's the best thing about that ride. At the end, when they do that song, that is great. Okay? So they nailed the song. They absolutely nailed the song. Everything else they got wrong. Everything else they got absolutely 100% wrong. The animatronics look like garbage. The story is solid. I have no problems with the story. But there are several story elements you miss because the attraction is not timed out right. So, you're in car 5 and you miss half of what happened. So you come off of that ride and you're like, I don't know what the hell just happened. What did we just go through? Okay? Somebody else has to explain it to you. Somebody else has to explain that to you. Okay? Can you name another Disney ride that does that? You can't. You can't name another Disney ride that does that. That is really bad show. That is really bad show. Okay? There is no excuse. There was no excuse for them to, half-ass the ride and make the animatronics look like crap and, have the attraction not timed out right. That there was no excuse. Absolutely no excuse for that. Okay? And I will never forgive them for that. I will never forgive them for that. Them getting rid of the Great Movie Ride and getting rid of Muppet Vision 3D, getting rid of the Tram Tour, getting rid of Lights Motors Action Stunt Show, I will never forgive them for those. Those are unacceptable losses. All right? And the citizens of Hollywood also. Okay? So that's 5 things. 5 things that we have lost in that park. Okay? So, depending on your point of view, Rock and Roller Coaster, if you want to put that in, which ties into, the aesthetic of MGM Studios. Okay? So, that's not on this list. I could have put that on the list. Rock and Roller Coaster retheme into Muppets. That hasn't happened yet. So, I don't know if they're going to ruin the aesthetic of that. Time's just going to have to tell. But in talking about the Great Movie Ride and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, what a downgrade. What a absolute downgrade that attraction is. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That attraction is such a downgrade. So, again, you have to, you're thinking as an Imagineer, if you're going to replace anything, again, what you replace has to be as good or better than what you replace. Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway is neither of those. It is not better than the Great Movie Ride was. It's absolutely worse. It is so much worse. It is so much worse than the Great Movie Ride. Whereas the Great Movie Ride, I would rate 10 out of 10. I would rate Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway a 3. Because it does nothing. It does nothing. You know, having it in that park just kills it. Just kills it. So I will forever be resentful of that fact, that they got rid of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Alright. Next on this list is Maelstrom into Frozen Ever After at Epcot. I don't know. I mean, again, most of these I don't know because I wasn't an Epcot goer. So I never got to experience Maelstrom. I've watched POV footage of Maelstrom. I like the ride. I don't know though. I like Frozen Ever After. Okay, I'm gonna get called out for this probably, but I like Frozen Ever After. I like it. Okay, a lot of people are like, well, that kills the theme of Norway. Yeah, kind of. Frozen's not Norway. It's more Scandinavia than Norway. But I mean, I accept it. I accept Frozen. You have to, it's having these Disney characters take over these rides. If you do them right, it's more about the impact of pop culture than anything, and the influence pop culture has on regular culture. So, Epcot replacing Maelstrom never bothered me. I understand that there's a lot of fans out there that really miss Maelstrom and don't like Frozen Ever After. I get it. But, I mean, I think that Frozen Ever After is as good as Maelstrom was, okay? Do I think it's better than Maelstrom? I don't know. I don't know if I think it's better than Maelstrom, but I think it's as good as Maelstrom was. But that's my opinion on it, okay? Excuse me. Sorry, my allergies are killing me tonight. All right. El Rio del Tempo into Grand Fiesta Tour at Epcot. Again, replacing, putting the Three Caballeros into this ride. I like it like this. I've seen footage of El Rio del Tempo. A lot of people, I think a lot of people would prefer Grand Fiesta Tour over El Rio del Tempo. I think that Grand Fiesta Tour is better than El Rio del Tempo. I haven't met one person yet that thinks that El Rio del Tempo was better than Grand Fiesta Tour. But I mean, let me know in the comments, because I'm interested in your take on that. Okay. Listen to the land into living with the land at Epcot. So instead of having a live cast member standing in the boat, telling you going on about a spiel about, agriculture and stuff. Now it's all now it's all automated. I mean, I like living, I really love living with the land. So I don't really know too much about Listen to the Land. You guys will have to let me know how you felt about it. But I really love living with the land. I like that, Spaceship Earth rethemes. Look, I really wished that they would have kept their promise and updated Spaceship Earth. I really, really wish that they would have done that. They were supposed to do that pre-COVID, and then COVID hit, and now they've kind of really shelved the idea, and it's probably never going to happen. It's probably never going to happen, which I think is sad. I really think it's sad, because this ride, above all others at Epcot, is really the most Walt Disney ride in the park. He would have absolutely loved that ride. Going back into the past and seeing how we've progressed through the ages with communication and technology, he would have absolutely adored that attraction. He would have loved it. All right. And he also would have loved to have it updated, much as, Carousel of Progress was supposed to be updated too, So that makes me sad. That really, really makes me sad that Spaceship Earth is probably never going to have another retheme. Because Spaceship Earth is, that ending is outdated. The ending is outdated, and it needs to be, it should have been, and it needs to be updated. All right? So, Disney, if you're listening, please reconsider. Please reconsider, redoing Spaceship Earth. Please reconsider redoing the ending of Spaceship Earth, because it needs it. It really does need it, okay? All right. And the last one is Star Tours. Into Star Tours, the adventures continue at Disney's Hollywood Studios. So, Star Tours was always Star Wars related. I really don't remember that much about Star Tours. I remember that my dad made me go on the ride, and I absolutely hated the ride. I did not like the ride at all. So going into Star Wars, The Adventures continues, never bothered me. But again, many of you will have to, tell me how you feel about this. Again, that never bothered me. Again, I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so I don't, doesn't really do anything for me. But I mean, I still like Star Tours, The Adventures Continue. So to me, it was an upgrade to just the regular Star Tours, but you'll have to let me know how you feel. Because, when I was a kid, I did not like that ride. I did not like Star Tours. I hated it. So, you'll have to let me know how you guys feel about that ride. But there you are. We've gone over 10 different ride rethemes. If you guys think of any more that you would like me to do, we can absolutely do a second video. Maybe some that I have missed. I know I've missed quite a few, but these are the ones that I could think of off the top of my head. So, later on down the road, if you want me to do another video, I can absolutely do that. I will have no problem with that. But there you are. There's your 10 ride rethemes. So I hope you enjoyed this second video of my new show. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel for more content. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. I'm going to have to figure out what I want to do for episode number 3. But I will definitely think about more topics. And if you guys have any topics, please feel free to shout them out. You know, let me know what you want me to discuss with you. But there's, I honestly right now can't think of anything else that, I could even talk about. So, again, if you like this video, please hit the like button. Please go ahead and go over and subscribe to my channel. I thank you guys very much for watching this video. I'm sorry that the video is late getting out. I will get back on a consistent schedule. So, thank you guys very much. You guys have a magical rest of your day, and we will see you real soon.